Hello and welcome back to the Gold Advantage on Best of 3 Network. We've just had quarterfinals, which I think we actually predicted basically perfectly, apart from the one upset, right? At least I'm very happy about that.
I did not
Heading into
pick perfectly.
semis, where one side should be obvious, which scares the shit out of me because when it's obvious is when it goes wrong, and then
Yep,
the other side of the bracket is heartbreak. I'm your host Nikita. With me is Big Money Blivs. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. Um, I did not nail this past quarterfinals. I truly believed
That
Energy
was
had a
rough, yeah.
chance, and I really bet heavily on it. And so I'm licking my wounds. The the hopium really. I was really high. I was really
You're
high
really
on
high on that
hopium.
one,
I was
yeah.
like super high. And honestly, the other game that I just was ecstatic over the moon on the bet was the T1 LNG plus 2.5, or not plus two and a
Yeah.
half, over 4.5. And I
Yep.
was confident that that match was going to go the full distance. It was going to be super compelling, and T1 just fucking smoked them. We'll
Smoked
get
them.
into each game, but for me, it was a bit of a heartbreak. I'm hoping to bounce back, but we only have 3 games left. We have
I
three
know, and then the
games in
season's
Worlds
over.
left, and the
I
season
hate
is
this because it's
over.
like
It's the
I feel
worst.
like we're in the meat. And I'm like,
It
yeah, like the Swiss stage was so much fun. And
oh,
now we have
so
to
much
wait so
fun.
long for the next match and then another. Like, nah, it's taking too long.
It,
Um,
it maybe it's like I'm already becoming like depressed because I know the season is not that far away from being over,
yeah,
and it's just like it's the fall up here in the U.S., and it's
yeah,
dark when you wake up, it's dark when you go to sleep, it's dark when you get out of work. It's just like, man, I need at least a little bit more league to get me through it, and
just
it's
something.
leaving me as well. It's tough. It's tough.
It is tough. Tough was also the first match that we had, which was NRG versus Weibo. You really bought into the copium. I will say, look, I
The
think
first
NRG game
game,
one looked really
yeah,
good.
it,
Um,
totally.
and then you could see they just kind of got crushed in game three. It was done mentally with broken. But I don't think there's much to say except I think this is a great success.
Great
You
success.
know what? Like, and NRG had an incredible run. No one expected them to win the
No
LCS.
one,
No one, let alone do well at Worlds.
no
Everyone's
one.
been so down on the LCS. Getting to quarters, they are whatever we might feel about their strength of schedule, whatever. They're a top 8 team.
The
They've
top eight
upset
team.
teams. They've upset G2. They beat
That
EU. For them. This is a good run. I'm proud of NRG. I think that it's something to be happy about.
they had the GDP of the greatest nation in the world, and then the second
Yeah,
continent of the world riding on their backs.
yeah, there you go.
Up against China and Korea. They were the lone team that was there. Kudos to them. Hats off to them. Like you said, game one, feisty, looking good in
Yep.
the game, playing. But then as they say,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cream
After
rises to the
that,
top, and the class that Weibo has just overwhelming. But good job to
yeah.
them. No reason to kind of dwell on this game.
No, no, absolutely. I think Weibo looked a bit shaky, and I'll dig into that later when we
I
get
mean,
into their
that's the
matchup against
story.
BLG.
That's the story of their entire run. They're always
It's
looking
the
a little
story of the whole
shaky.
year. Yeah,
Yeah,
isn't it?
but
Then
they're still
Gen.G
here. But they're a
BLG.
top four team, by the way. They're still a top
Yeah,
four
yeah.
team,
By the way, so
dude.
it's still yeah, yeah.
So like
So
it's like
it's everyone's like they're a coin flippy team, but you know what? They're landing on the right
they're
side when they need to. So
they're flipping their way to the freaking semis.
exactly. The Gen.G BLG. Now that was a series. BLG
Yep,
nearly getting reverse swept, or like there was a potential comeback. But
yep.
I never fully believed it. I really think BLG just had the reins the whole time. And man, like I thought this was the one I got wrong. I thought Gen.G would win it. I thought BLG didn't look the best, and my I knew Gen.G would have the choke, but I thought it'd be in the semis. No, they decide to get
No,
out early. You know, they want that Macau holiday trip or wherever, Jeju Island holiday trip.
I think this is one of these games that I wish we had given a bit more time to and like a bit more analysis to. A,
Sure.
we knew Gen.G was gonna throw, and we knew that they were gonna blow
Yeah.
it. Number two, and we did have this, which is they had a long wait. It's also applied to JDG, so don't worry, I'll
Yeah.
bring this up again and when we talk about the next match, which is like you have that long of a wait, you're not fresh, so you're gonna lose map one. And we called it.
Mm-hmm.
We called it against JDG. We said, bet these teams on the reverse side
Yep.
map one. So BLG, they're basically already guaranteed one up. When you look back at this Gen.G's Swiss stage competitions, GAM, not great. They did beat a T1 team, but this is a T1 team that they're familiar with, right? This is a T1 team that they know very well. And
And
this
it was
was
a
back
T1
when
team that was still shaky. You know, they
still
nearly lost
shaky.
to,
I was
to
getting there.
TL,
Yep.
so they was like figuring it out.
Totally figuring it out.
By the
And then
way,
they,
spoiler alert, they figured it the fuck out.
yeah, spoiler
Like,
alert. I think that they have got their world's buff going.
yeah,
And then they 2-0 a G2 team, which at the time,
yeah.
like those 3 games in succession, like of course you assume GAM, but like they look like they're strong. They look like they're kind of top of the
Yep.
class. But it's like you look back and it's like this is a G2 team that, wasn't necessarily as good as we initially thought. And so this has all the makings of a BLG team that was, having to play many more teams. They played JDG. They played a T1 team when they were good. They also beat
Mm-hmm.
G2. They beat, KT. And so um, for them to get out, really, as mentioned, they basically only had to win 2 out of 4
Yeah.
at the end of it because they were going to be up 1. And so for them to be able to go 50-50 with this Gen.G team, it just seems immensely possible. Again, they went the full distance. I'm glad to see Gen.G fight back. When they were up 2-0,
Yeah.
I was like, man, not only did they throw and blow it, which we knew was going to happen, but like they're just like fading out, whimpering out. So for them to at least go 5 showed some resolve, and it kind of felt like they like woke up and like got back into the meta. But
Yeah, I don't know. It was. I wonder. I think there's like a rustiness. I think there's a bad
mhm,
read on the meta. There were things like Toby just seemed to not want to play Oriana. He either can't or doesn't want to
right,
for whatever reason. You know,
yeah,
when he got his accolade, like holy shit, that thing was clean, and I think it was game 3 or 4. That was really impressive.
yep,
But it just it didn't. It felt like as a team, you know, Doran and Peanut were not it. There were just a lot of flaws in it at the end of the day, and BLG really just came out on top. I think figuring it out and pulling off the
and,
win.
and it's worth. I mean, it's worth mentioning, right? Like game 3, which Gen.G ends up pulling out, that went 46 minutes, right? So
It
this was
did,
almost a clean 3-0.
yeah.
For some reason, and for the life of
And the
me, I
gold
can't
drop, by
figure
the
it
way,
out.
BLG had the lead for like a 2,000 gold lead for a
I
little
know,
while in that one. So
but like for the life of me, if you
yeah,
and again, I'm not as deep into the coaching and like the
sure.
champion selection, but like for Gen.G to just let Jarvan and Oriana go through all like they let
The
Jarvan
whole
go
way.
through 5 of every single game. So it's like you're just letting the champion, like you're letting the player get so comfortable in champion, like even if that's not the reason
Yeah,
you're losing, like force them to play somebody different, right? Force them to beat you a different way. And then again, Oriana was
yeah.
4 out of 5. It's like it just felt like Gen.G like again
Weird.
whatever the coaching, it's just like it seems strange to me. It's like I know when I play, there's
Mm-hmm.
like 3 champions I like, and if I don't get one of those 3
Yep.
champions, I guarantee you, I'm playing like shit. It's like just
Yep.
make them feel uncomfortable. I know they're professionals. I know they're better than that, but like,
Yeah, no, no, but I know what you mean. And weirdly, actually, they had an interview. I think it was Peanut who had this interview where he was like, we just didn't understand or we weren't prepared for Renata," which is
huh?
like mind
Yeah,
blowing because she has been, I think, top 3 pick support through all the Swiss stage. So did you just not look at it?
right.
She's also a fairly relevant champ. She's not new. It's not like you have no idea. But they lost the games where she was picked, and then they had to ban her out. And it's like, well, hey, this is something along those lines that you know it is. It's a bit wild that he's coming out and saying making that sort of statement of just being like we weren't prepared for this champ who is a major champ and a major feature of World so far. And I don't know what that speaks to the team, whether it speaks to coaching staff. I do suspect there's an element of it
Yeah,
that I feel that the Korean League, and they've talked about this, Korean culture and kind of the respect for the right way of doing things. And I think
sure,
Gen.G knows how to play against other Korean teams because they
correct.
play whether the Korean way or whether they play a more chaotic way, whatever. But there's a way of playing it. And I think that when the spanner is thrown a little bit into the works, I don't know if they're as adaptable as sometimes you need to be in these best of fives or best of series.
I mean, we've talked about it, right? Gen.G is clinical. If
Yep.
they are a team that is super clinical, super precise. They
Yep.
they know how to play the game in a way that
Yeah.
like that is like very meticulous and kind of scales perfectly, and they know what they're doing. When you start throwing a little bit of chaos in that, there's a level of creativity that's required that we consistently see on the best teams in the world. just never feels like Gen.G, whether that's their DNA as like an org or whatever. They lack that creativity that is necessary to win worlds.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. I agree 100%. But BLG pulled out the upset and they pulled out the win again. I think at that point, also one of the things to highlight there is that BLG really seemed to have figured things out between the end of Swiss and here. They were
Totally.
looking weaker in Swiss stage, but
Yeah.
now they seem to have like, okay, this is how we want to play. This is how we think the meta is and how we're going to execute. And that is, to your point, what the best teams need to be able to do.
Yeah.
All right, next match that we had was JDG against KT, and that played out basically exactly as expected. 3-1, JDG slow, and the first game they lost that one, needed to wake up and warm up, and then it was just like done. And I think that
I
the
mean,
craziest
we.
thing, sorry, go ahead, yeah.
Oh no, sorry. Go ahead. Finish it up.
Well, I was just gonna say that, like, I think that it doesn't matter how many times it happens. We talk about the LPL, about and to a lesser extent the LCK, how clinical, not clinical, sorry, how they can just pull the trigger. But I think JDG is the epitome of this. They they get there's like one moment you think they're losing or there's something, and there's a moment, and then all of them just pull the trigger. They're in, they kill you, and then they're either on the objective, the Baron, or they're ending the game. And it's these margins. I think there was a match, maybe it was T1 or someone who was playing during the Swiss stage, and they aced the other team, and it was like, oh, are they going to finish the game? And they hesitated a bit, and then they went to Baron, and everyone was like, well, I think you could have finished it, but it was a thing. Whereas it feels like JDG doesn't have that hesitation, and they know exactly how much time or how much space they need to end a game. And it's like, oh, we've aced them here. It's 25 minutes. They're back in 35 seconds. Yeah, we can win this. We can end this in 32 seconds type of thing. And you have that game two, 25 minutes. Game three, 27 minutes. Game four, 33 minutes. That was a longer one. So
I mean, it's crazy. Like,
yeah,
and they're so talented that they can team fight with 4 out of 5 of their players and have their fifth player going out and like going after a tower, right? Or kind of like clearing
yeah,
clearing a channel. And so like it is unbelievable how talented these guys are. I mean, the thing I was going to jump in earlier is like we just called this game exactly perfectly, which is they're going to lose game one. They're going to be rusty.
yeah.
It's just going to take them a minute just to wake back up, to feel familiar with the champions. Like, no matter how much you train getting back into competition mode, being on the
Mm-hmm.
stage, it takes a game to wake up when you've been out that long.
Sure.
And then it was a clean 3-0 from there. We called it perfectly. You know, and I know the next game we're going to talk about is T1 LNG, but like, it's a bit of a bummer that the final is taking place in the semifinal, but here we are.
Yeah, basically. And I think what's crazy is like game four. This is KT was in the lead. Actually, the game ended with KT having 15 kills and JDG having 14. So they won with less kills. At one point, KT was like 5K, 6K in the lead. And that's what I
Doesn't
mean.
matter.
But then
Doesn't
there was
even
a
matter.
moment of people kind of being out of position, and it's a real thing of beauty. And I think if you just love league and you love esports, it's those things where you see suddenly, oh, he's a bit out of position, but the whole of JDG just collapses on him. Like there's no hesitation. There's no I've got to finish farming this wave or I've got to save my fash. It's like no, this guy's out of position. We can kill him and we're gonna finish. And everyone believes in themselves and their teammates to execute it. And I think that is just it is wild how good this team is and their
Yep.
instincts are to
It
just finish things off.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Again, I don't. If you're KT, why are you letting through Rakan, the same champion, all 4 games? And again, Oriana is 3 out of 4. Like
Yeah, but you
I know
have
you
to you
can't.
ban the
I know you can't.
Wukong. Like, what do you
Yeah, I
not
know.
ban then? That's the
Right.
if you stop the Rakan, they get the Rel or do they get the Aatrox? And there's so many of these things there that are like,
Yeah.
oh,
I
this
mean,
could be
to the extent I'm not sure. Again, JDG
yeah.
just seems like a steamroller, so I'm not sure how many things you can do in order to. Yeah, you always
Yeah,
you have to let them play some champions. Unfortunately, maybe the
exactly.
best way is like if you just let them not have champions.
Just not allowed. You have to
Four
play
on four on
yourself.
five. Sorry,
Yeah,
you get 4 on 5.
exactly. There you go. The final match was LNG T1, and like this is I'm so happy I predicted this. Like I nailed it. And I said this, it was the thing that really gave me confidence in this call was the fact that I didn't feel like the meta really worked well for Scout in terms of that his ability to 1v9.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just I think Scout didn't look great. Or he looked good, but he wasn't great. I mean, obviously the real criminal here is fucking Tarzan and to a slightly lesser extent, Scout. Zika seemed to have held his own, got some solo kills, but my God, Tarzan was running it. Like if ever there was a time where I'd be like, hey, you need to. This guy has inted before, but this time, like, let's investigate him for match fixing because this was like a level of like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's it's so funny. You picked it.
Yeah.
I felt very strongly the opposite, which was just like
Yeah.
this is going to be a tight game. So like I was the opposite of picking it. To the extent it's like all three games like 26-37, 31-40,
Yeah.
26-18, like they weren't really even close.
No.
Um Man, it's just like did I read it incorrectly in LNG? I feel like LNG is a good team. Like
I think LNG is a
honestly,
great team. They were like my dark horse. I
yeah,
think that
I
this
think
like arguably second best. At one point, I was like, I think they're the second best team, but like or third. But T1, but this is the thing is like honestly, when T1 as a unit is playing well together, and this was what I echoed last week, is that
yeah.
they look good in their best of three to get out of Swiss.
Oh, they look
And
really
I
good.
think when T1 as a group is clicking, they are
Totally.
one of the best teams in the world. Which,
Hot take
obviously
there.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I know, right? But one might say they're a top four team in the world. But they really they looked like they were clicking, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh shit. And then there's just this energy. It's something about Fake. It's like Brady. You
The
there
game
is
slows down.
does
The
not
game slows
allow
down.
them. That
Yeah.
we don't allow like the fact that this stat came out. Faker's worst performance of Worlds when he gets it is semifinals, and I'm just like, no, he won't accept less than that.
Yeah.
That is
And
mine.
he doesn't accept less than winning
Win or
worlds,
finals.
but right.
Yeah, win or finals,
Um
or at worst semifinals. Like semifinals is a failure to him, and here we are, Europe and NA dreaming of a semifinals type of thing. But
it's crazy. It really is. They're so impressive. Again, we've talked about it. The playoff
yeah,
buff. They just once they start like getting into it, it's like they like the team just performs.
like
It's a
game
very
three,
well.
Zeus
It
was
is a
just
Ferrari.
disgusting on Jace.
Yeah.
Like he was hitting every shot, 603 final, like that. He was just like such a standout.
Yeah.
But then, you go back to the previous games and you have the Gumayushi carrier bot lane, double AD carry, with Ash and what's his name? What's the other guy called? Varus. And it's like, it's a weird thing because I'm almost, is this the meta? Can this work? Or is this just T1 going like, hey, we know how to do this. We're just going to be better than you. And I don't
Yeah.
really know. Like there's
The-
an element here because also LNG entered a bit as well. There were like between 10 and 15 minutes, LNG did something to the extent where you're like, oh, this game is over. And so now I'm left a little bit confused. Is T1 that good, or is it LNG is inting? Is or the
so I think
sequence is like, is T1 figured out the meta or their own version of the meta, or
yeah.
actually do they not have a good read on the meta and the picks and bans are bad, but they just weren't exposed for it? And I'll
I
be
think I
honest,
think
I don't know.
I think more than one thing can be true. I
Yeah,
think that also the league scripters and writers came down and were like, hey, we can't just have an all China Final Four. It doesn't look good.
yeah,
Sorry, LNG, you're the last team at the end of this. You just have to throw and lose.
yeah,
We need a little bit of variability. So,
yep.
you know, in all honesty, to me, if this was MSI,
Hmm.
LNG wins this. I don't think T1 gives a shit, really,
Yeah, I
to be
agree.
honest.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
when you're on a world stage, there's just a
It's
different performance. There's a different level of concentration, and
yep.
there's just to your point, like the best players in the world just perform at the biggest stages, and I think that is what this T1
Hmm.
team does over and over again. Um, and it's just fun to watch. Like it's so
So
impressive to watch. It's
yeah,
just it really is fun. And now it leaves us in the situation where we have the final that we all wish we could have, as
Yeah,
the grand
I'm pumped.
final in the semifinal. At least we get to see it. Like it's kind of like a fun, but it does seem like whoever wins this game, hot take here, whoever wins this game feels like they're going to win Worlds.
Well, I hope so. So that's my like. So let's talk about the JDG T1. Like
Yeah.
it is the finals, and I want JDG to win it because they finished a Golden Road. I think they are the best team ever to play League of Legends, and I would love to see
Really?
that
You think they're
cemented.
the
Yeah, I
best
think so.
team of all time?
I think so. I know. I not it's people. I the natural instinct is to bring back either an old T1 team or a Samsung White, or was it
Or
blue,
Damwon
whichever
Kia?
Samsung one of them. No, absolutely not. Um,
I
but to
don't,
bring up the Samsung teams, but the thing is we're looking at a team that now has like 80 years of added game knowledge, training, etc. So they're better. I'm I could say that if you took that Samsung team and brought it to this generation, I think they would be competitive and maybe they would be better. But if you just took that iteration against this iteration, it's like, well, we know
yeah,
so
of
much more. The
course.
game's at
Yeah.
such a higher
Well,
level.
the game's a better game too, right? So the
Exactly. Yeah.
players are naturally going to be better. It's kind of
Exactly.
like, yeah, one of my old professors actually had this like funny thing. He's like, each year I teach a class, the next year's class is smarter than the previous class. And
Yeah.
it's not like all of a sudden like the new class is like actually smarter. It's just like they have so much more knowledge to draw from that they're
Yeah.
going to naturally be smarter. And it's like nothing to the old
It's
classes.
a fact in science. We have a higher IQ than our parents.
Correct.
Like
100%.
and that
I
kind of goes
remind
down
my
through
parents
history.
about that all the time.
I don't even need to. They just know. Have established dominance, you know. So yeah, look, we have JD at 1.6 and T1 as the underdog at 2.24 is what I have there. These are pretty fair odds, I think, on either side. T1 as the underdog is going to change because T1 fans are rabid and definitely not bet on it. So that would
But
drive down.
like this is kind of, you said it again. You had it last week, which is when you have the chance to bet T1 at underdog odds, you just have to do it. Like
You do.
what are we doing here? Like this is
Yeah.
crazy.
Especially at
Again,
such generous. It's not even like 1.8 underdog. It's over 2.0. It's amazing.
2.24. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I want
Also, I never finished
to,
my other side, by the way.
yeah.
T1 winning this match just is another bow of how incredible Faker is and this T1 team. Like he's surrounded by talent, but he's the consistent. And if he wins this world, it is like everyone needs to shut up because this man is
I
unbelievable.
mean, he's got to
But
retire, right?
the
At some
worst, I would
point,
be so upset though if he beats JDG
and then
and
loses in
then
the final.
loses in the
Yeah, that'd be
finals.
the
That
worst.
will like crush me.
Yeah, that would be an
That's the
unjust
worst.
end.
Yeah. So
Um,
what bets do you have? I mean, I agree with you. I think right now, just the T1 bet on the money line makes the most sense just from an odds perspective. It's misvalued. You need to take it.
I basically have two bets. Like
Okay.
I think I'm gonna get so much shit for this. Over 4.5 at 2.42.
Yeah,
I
I
think this.
actually really like that.
I think
Really, really like that.
I had this last week. It
Hmm.
hit on the one game that I didn't think it was going to against Gen.G. Um, I still think this is going to be a slog. I think you're going to get some unbelievable matches. Like when one
Hmm.
team goes left, the other team's going to go right, and like you're just going to
Yeah,
get such balanced responses, and like it's going to be a beautiful. It's going to be like a orchestra. It's going to be stunning to watch. I'm very excited.
agreed.
Uh, on the flip side, if I had to pick a team, I'm going JDG minus 1.5. Like this is a team at every single turn is just showing why, to your point, they are the best team in the world right now. Whether they're the best team in history, I don't have that context. I'll leave it to
Sure.
you to debate and let the people comment in our Discord who they think the best team of all time is. And then I will go back and watch some old VODs. Um, I just I cannot, as much as I love the playoff buff for T1, and to your point, like Faker winning Worlds, like it just feels kind of like one of those old man still's got it type
Hmm.
tournaments, and like then he can kind of ride off into the sunset after this. Uh, Coming back for one last thing.
Yeah,
Um, Man, this JDG team is impressive, and for them to
this is
take
so
down
good.
this KT team that you kind of called it from the beginning of the tournament, it's like kind of like a dark horse, like one of the best teams in the
Yeah, it was
world, take them
LNG
down.
and KT that
Yeah,
were.
and I have a hard time shaking the minus 1.5. You can get it at 2.41, so it's like both of those are like right at 2.41, 2.42, and that's going to be kind of like, it's not a hedge because it's definitely not a perfect hedge, but those are like my two bets.
Look, I 100% agree with that. I really love the over 4.5 at 2.42. The minus 1.5, I think right now currently is the value bet on JDG. As we said, bet T1 because the odds are there. But if you are on the JDG train, then T1 fans will bet on T1, and that will drive that down, which will drive JDG up. And I think the money line will get up to like 1.8, 1.9. So you could take that. And I would absolutely sprinkle a little bit on the minus 1.5 because
You think
it's
it's going to
just
swing that
that will
much?
probably go up to 2.4, I think. Maybe even 2.5. A minus 1.5 on JG, I think it's phenomenal.
Well, it's already
I'm
2.4. So if you're
Is it
saying
already?
that
Yeah. Okay.
it's
So
already 2.4. So if you're
I
saying
think
you
it's
think there's going to
2.2.
be
Yeah.
so much money on T1 that it goes to like a 2.1 even, or even a
No,
2.0.
2.6. I think it might go to 2.6. The minus 1.5 on
Oh,
JDG, I
right.
think
But I'm
will
saying
get
if
driven
you're
up.
saying that the money
Oh, the
line on
money
T1
line
is going
will.
to
Yeah.
come down and
Yeah.
JDG is going to go up, then yeah, you're going to see that minus 1.5 go up
Yeah.
to like 2.5, 2.6.
Exactly. And I think that's just going to be great. So those are the ones there. Otherwise, honestly, I wouldn't take I don't know. I don't have a good read on the over-unders because a lot of the games that they had were
They're so
under.
fast. All the games are so
Exactly.
fast. And like,
They're so fast.
they're so
But the
fast.
one game that went long was like 30 kills. And so it really depends on how the games play out. But I
It
think there's
does feel like
always a threat that they're just going to end it too quick.
and and I
Yeah.
would actually go one step further, which is like the, while you would think these two teams are so good that the games are going to last longer, because
No,
they are so
sometimes. Yeah.
clinical and so precise, they actually don't. It's like when
Yeah.
the one team knows that they have the slightest edge, they
It's
fucking drive the
gone.
wedge right in and they just
Yeah.
fucking go straight for the heart because
Yep.
they're like, this is our chance. We have to take it. Game's over. Let's fucking
Yeah.
go. And like that's what
Um,
they're world class in. And they don't miss.
Absolutely.
And
No,
they
they don't. They
do
don't.
not miss.
No, no, they are like insanely good at that, closing it out. I think so. I'm going to be paying attention to individual map bets as we start seeing the drafts. I think, highlight, pay attention to how P1 drafts and how JDG deal to that. Because if P1's drafts against LNG were flawed, but LNG couldn't punish them, JDG will. And if that's the case, then start hitting that JDG line because that means T1 has a bad read. They just got away with it. I'm just not sure at this point in time. The other match is BLG versus Weibo. BLG is sitting at a 1.47 and Weibo's a 2.7. I think
That feels
BLG is just
right.
the better team. My bet,
Yeah.
I do like the minus 1.5 at 2.07. And you can get the individual map lines at a 1.66 or 1.67, which I think I would go for. But there is
Yep.
so much value on Weibo money line that I think it's a little bit crazy not to put some on that.
I this feels like such a cop out, and I swear, if you've been here for the rest of the season, I love taking wild swings and massive bets.
Yeah.
Like this is very much more my style, but this feels like an over 4.5 to me again. This is a game to
See that?
me where over 4.5 is paying at 2.78, right?
Oh,
And,
wow.
and again, phenomenal odds. But when I look at these two teams, Nikki, you said it for the while, and you're spot on, which is like Weibo's a team that is super coin flippy. They will
Mm-hmm.
play really well or they will throw, right?
Mm-hmm.
And BLG is this team that is good, but like, I don't know, like beating Gen.G in a best of five, 3-2, just like, I know Gen.G is good, but it doesn't inspire the confidence that I need to see.
No.
Also, no offense to Weibo, beating NRG 3-0 doesn't inspire my confidence either. And so like this feels
Especially
like,
not in the way they won.
especially not in the way they won, right? A 40
Yeah.
minute game and then like two other ones. So to me, this is two teams that super flip floppy. I don't have a much,
Yeah.
and it feels like, again, as opposed to the other game where I think it'll be a 5 game thriller with like massive swings of like strategic battles and like beautiful
Mm-hmm.
orchestrated gameplay. This feels like a best of 5 game where it's like, you guys did that, we did this, we were really up and then we threw, and so we shouldn't have lost that game, but then like the next game we're going to come back and like kind of perform better. And so like
Yeah.
it just feels to me like kind of two different ways that you get to a 4-5.
Yeah.
Maybe this is
I don't
me
disagree
doing
with you.
some
I think.
hopium on just wanting long matches because I need it in order to catch any of it here in North America. But like to me, this feels like a 5 game, another 5 gamer, and at 2.7, 2.78, almost 2.8. Like God, that feels good.
I think the odds on that is so good you need to sprinkle a little bit on. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a 3-1 is my only thing. But that I think like to your point, the win over Gen.G by BLG, they gave them enough opportunity to get back into it to go to game 5. So they're not as clean and dominant as they should have been really in that series. And Weibo is also a coin flippy team. And normally we use that in a negative sense, in that, hey, they might let you back in, which is good for BLG if they're losing. But it also means that sometimes Weibo, when they're clicking, they will win a match. It's just, will they win it over the course of it? But can they win 2 out of 5? I think absolutely. And I think this is the sort of scrappy team that we will end up seeing go the distance there. So
And
I
and
think that's a
again,
good
this
one.
is two China teams that
Yeah.
know each other, right? Like
Yep.
these are teams that are familiar with each other. These are teams that
Yep.
have played each other throughout the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's just a familiarity to the extent there also might just be a natural understanding of like where you're better and where you're not, and know how to like completely be really surgical and kind of exposing
Mm-hmm.
your weak points. Um, so if I was going to bet two things, I'm kind of like either it's over 4.5 with a
Yeah.
7.8, or it's like honestly I could see it being a BLG minus 2.5 at like 4.3. Like I could just see
Right.
either BLG just destroying them again, knowing the really being really surgical about where they're good and where they're
Mm-hmm.
weak, um, and being able to expose that, and then
Yep.
going 3-0, or it could be I think a slog trying to battle out between two different
And that's where you
worthy
look. That's
semifinal
why
champions.
that's where you look at the odds, because where is there an outsized value that you can jump on and potentially make the benefits from? So I'm in agreement with you. That's it. We're wrapping it up. I hope these matches are basically incredible, and I'm really excited. I'm excited for them, and I'm excited to see the finals. I think particularly the JDG T1 one. I think it's going to be great. Would love to comments,
Hot
guys.
take.
The comments last week were amazing. Love
Yep.
bantering back and forth with you, getting your thoughts.
So
What you
good.
agree on, don't agree on, please do. Please join Discord if you'd like to. Link is down below. And I think that's all I have. So, Mr. BNB, if you want to sign us out,
Toodaloo.
everyone.